The average woman is not seeking to blow up her life. She would prefer to patch mill her life in order to make it tolerable. I always encourage women to really be in the driver's seat of their lives versus allowing everything just to be. There is a time, however, where I would pass you the grenade to demolish what is standing. In this episode, I'm going to share 3 ways for you to not have to blow up your life and some ways to understand when you should. As much as we may hate our lives as women, there may be things in your life that you don't like, you don't want. I will say for the majority, they're not trying to throw a grenade into their lives. They're just trying to make it more comfortable, palatable. That's why so many women, especially if you're 35 plus, you are so hyper fixated on the soft life. But there are a few that the best thing that you could do would be to let me give you a grenade, dynamite, and let you just like blow your life up because it's going to be the best thing for you. But for a majority, I want to discuss how you can actually make actionable steps to make your life better. I'm also a very big about calling out what's not working. Honesty, if you get nothing else from this episode, is going to be the core essence, the actual medicine to you living your best life. When I talked about this in my last episode, all about the ways that you can see that you've outgrown your life, that may have left you with some questions on how you can actually make that a thing. And that's what I'm going to be going over today. Now, there are 2 ways that you can view your life. There are for some who actually have real great things going in their lives. Like they have loved ones who really do care and really do a mutual equitable flow in how they operate. Family that respects you. Maybe it's even a job that you have that's actually going well. But there's other aspects of your life, let's just say relationships, intimate relationships where things suck, just to be cut and simple. It sucks. That is going to be more so redesigning. Or maybe you have friends that are draining you and it's always you're on the give, they're on the receive, and there isn't this mutual reciprocity. That is a redesign. Now, if there are a multitude of things going on in your life, like you can't find one area of life where you are being respected, there is a mutual reciprocity, there is growth, there's evolution, there's real support. That is where we take grenades and we throw them and we demolish it and we start over. It is uncomfortable at times to have to do redesign because it's very scary for a lot of women to actually hold the notion that you are not getting your needs met. And you, by not getting your needs met, means that you need to change something. Often we'll put it off. We'll say, well, we just work with it. It's just what it is. This is reality. Nothing's perfect. No one's perfect. And those are true things. Like there is no perfect person. However, there is what is actually supportive to you than just dealing with it. Anytime your default answer is, I just have to deal with this, is a huge indicator that you need some redesigning, some recalibration. There is something off. Now, if it's a complete demo, to me, that is actually one of the greatest times. It's scary as heck because you're going to be blowing up things that you have once been comforted by, even though what was comforting was not healthy. But this is a way for you to really extract everything out, reflect on it, and then really get to be in the driver's seat of what it is that you want. All right, so the number one way that you're going to start redesigning your life, and this will probably be a little bit of an uncomfortable one, which is stop building your life towards what was inherited and actually call out what it is that you want. We often have been inherited dreams, goals, ideals, belief systems that were handed down from family. Family felt like we should be a doctor. We have to be an engineer. We need to look a certain way. We need to have a certain level of income. We can only participate in these things. And that may not be your life. So, for example, maybe you're someone who's from a very hyper religious background. The path that you needed to go on was, do enough in school to get by. And then maybe you find a job, but more so, you're probably going to be focused on trying to find a husband and have children. You, on the other hand, have no desire for children. You're absolutely horrible with children, actually. You have no desire for a spouse in the traditional way, or even that you want to date a man. It could be a whole bunch of things. And you're someone who wants to be like a traveling, like nomad. Like that's what you want. Like you want to work, but you want to work on your terms. That would be a complete shift. And so instead of just keeping the momentum, keeping people off your back, I don't want my mother to ask me questions, so I'll just keep pretending. I'll keep going to this religious function when it actually doesn't do anything for me. If anything, it's wasting my time. This is what I mean by continuing to build the bridge on a life that's not genuinely yours. For some women, it is in the realm of what you wanted, but what you wanted really wasn't what you wanted truly. It was doing the thing that sounded right. And it could be a way of escape. It could be expectation. So if you're someone who grew up in a very impoverished background, your mind might have been, I'm going to go become an attorney because then I'll make a lot of money. There'll be some prestige. And then I would be treated as I'm a human being. That is very important to understand, acknowledge, and be aware of. So that way, when you're making your goals are very tactical to who you are and what you're wanting to be. Another piece is that you might have a life where on the outside, it is very much something to be envied. You have what appears optically, it's someone's dream. It's just not yours. Like it's not your dream life. It's not what gets you up and makes you excited in the morning. That can make you also be very scared and timid in saying that this is not a life I wanted. And then there'll be kind of that last type of woman out there who what you wanted, you have. It was what you wanted. It felt good at a time, like genuinely you were happy. But as everyone knows, we evolve. We sometimes have not been exposed to everything that we could need to be exposed to, which would then give us more information to say what I like and what I don't like. All of that is you need to acknowledge what is not working and really own what you want for your next chapter. Now, a way to be able to really audit and figure out what it is that you want for your life, like what is your true life, you have to actually stop and sit and reflect. What does my ideal life look like? What I want, what I genuinely want, and actually say it. Say it out loud, write it on a piece of paper. And I would urge you to not be vague. So don't just say, I want peace. I want it to look this. I want it to be cute. No. What does do a full day in the life, in your dream life? How do you wake up each morning? What are you wearing? How does your body look? Where do you live? What do you do for your day to day? Do you have a spouse? Is there kids? Are you living in some exotic place? Is it somewhere in the city? Like, really get granular. Are you running your own business? Are you working at a company? Are you working at all? Are you something of the creative? Like, really dive into it and be very, very imaginatory on what that would look like. What I see when I work with clients is that when they start to get into this piece, they get excited initially when they hear it, but when it's actually quiet and you have that piece of paper or your computer, there's when the fear starts to come in. and that voice that says, like, who do you think you are to want this? Like, you're ungrateful for wanting something different than what you already have. And that's just programming that's coming up, that it's okay. Like, you acknowledge it, you thank it, and let it go. This programming has been done in a way in our minds, like our egos don't want us to fail because it doesn't want to actually deal with the backlash of failure and, protection. Because when you start something new, there is an element of vulnerability that is there. And so it's there to be a supportive mechanism. You thank it and you continue moving forward. And you, hopefully, if you have that energy, that drive to dive in, this can be probably one of the most exploratory experiences, and to just sit with the weight of how good it would feel to wake up to your dream life. The number two way that you will be able to start having the life you want is that you're going to have to, building on number one, you sat down, you thought about what it is that your life is. You stop building the bridge of what doesn't work and you're building what is and really calling out what is. The number two is going to be doing a very much ruthless audit to what in your life you're willing to give up. So when you go and understand what it is that you want, as great as it feels to know and hold the energy in the container of that, you also have to be very realistic about what is it that I'm going to have to give up in order to receive. If your hands are full, no one can give you anything else. If your container's full, even though the container's full of things that you don't want, if it's full, nothing else can come in. And therefore, you're in this vicious cycle of not being where you want to be. Being ruthless about what it is that is not working and that you are willing to give away, to release. It could be relationships, it can be careers, it can be people, it can be belief systems that you've grown into that again, it may not be what you want, but it's what you've always known. And sometimes comfort is the most antagonizing thing for us to grow from, because it feels comfortable, even though it's not what I want. It's just familiar. And that familiarity is what keeps us in this not great place. And we do so many things to pacify. I've recently joined Substack, and one person I was reading essentially put it that, oftentimes we're buying things not out of joy, but out of essentially distraction and to pacify us because the life we're living is something that we need to escape. And so that happens often and frequently when we're living a life that isn't what is designed for us. So everything can look on the surface perfect. There's some other babe out there that's like, that's the life I want. Like, if I could wake up to that, I'm happy. And that's wonderful. There's no reason to push it down or to knock it. It's not a bad thing. It's just not for you. Like, if you were size 2'4", why would you be mad at someone who wears a size 8'10"? Like, that doesn't impact you. What you want to focus on is you. So everything can look perfect, but if it's not what you want, then it's not perfect. And it doesn't make you a bad person for wanting more. The more that you're able to release, the better freedom you're going to have as you navigate transitioning your life. I can't give you a blueprint of how to transition your life because everyone's life desires are very different. But when you can be comfortable and in a still a safe space to say, okay, if I want to start this new career, I'm going to have to let go of always being the helper for my mom. Or I want to move states because this area has what I need in order to start this community garden. Okay, well, then I'm going to have to give up this house, this job, if it's in person, or at least figure out what I'm going to do in order to make moves. If it's, I want to have love that is healing and restorative, I may have to release this person who may just be a a safe space or a placeholder. Their sex may be great, but I don't feel nourished when I deal with them. Or it could be, I love this person, but I don't love them in that way anymore. Or it could be the way that you look at yourself. You could be holding up ideals about beauty, aesthetics, or just anything. And if you say that I want to be this most vibrant individual, I want to dress a certain way, then you may have to release these beliefs that because I'm fat, I can only wear XYZ. Because of my skin tone, I'm not able to have a life that looks like this. And those are very, very difficult because sometimes we are most comfortable to holding on to negativity and to delusion than we are actually tasting and experiencing what we want. The final way that you can begin to retweak your life without blowing it up, really redesign, is that instead of trying to apply this to all parts of your life at once, which is what most people do, it's like, think about it. New Year's hits, we do our vision boards or Pinterest boards, and we make all these goals. And then we set out on January 1st to do all those things. And then by the end of January, those goals are no longer applicable. They're collecting dust. They really were collecting dust the first week of whatever it is that we were trying to do. I am always a big proponent of building muscle. And the way that you do that is by focusing on one area at a time. So if recalibration is going to be a life where you have more freedom, more autonomy, it could be not answering the phone when someone's calling you from your family about things that they could do on their own. And you consistently do that for a month or two, where you feel comfortable, like it's more automatic, where you can actually go from the, oh, never mind, let me just do this, to no, I'm not. And you hold it and you're uncomfortable, to that kind of wavering where it's kind of like, okay, I'm not going to, but you can still feel that urge to where it's just like done and it's autoed. You can do that to any part of your life. Once you get comfortable, you build that confidence, it then spreads into other areas. An area of my life that I've seen this the most and have had several affirming it is when I was in my 20s and I had just graduated out of undergrad. I was the largest I had ever been in my life. And it was just the accumulation of stress, ideation failure, and overall, I like to look at it what poverty impacts one when they try to do this new thing to be someone else. And so I'm looking at the scale January of that year at a YMCA, and it was just horrible. It was very mortifying to see those numbers associated with myself. And I remember really pushing on working out, going to the gym, lifting weights, and really being accountable. And the thing that I noticed very gradually was that the energy and the standard that I had for myself began to expand exponentially, but way beyond the fitness. So the fitness was the starter, but because I kept building momentum, I mean, I was really aggressively after it. Like to a point that I actually had to go and retake my gym picture because they were like, you're a flight risk. Your face does not look like the face that came in here when you first started. Like that level of like consistency, drive, no excuses, getting in there, doing what it was I was set out to do. That then made me start looking at my career choices differently, of what I wanted, even being able to say, I want to have this type of business at some point. This is what I want my life to look like. Even if everything outside of me was contradictory to that, that's didn't matter to me. I was focused on what it is I wanted. And I kept that. And so it applied to relationships, friendships, career, even the desire about having what I was soft life back then, but definitely wasn't called that. It was just what I used to like to look at as like a pretty girl life. Now it's coined as soft girl. But all of that to say, you take knowing what it is that you want, doing the audit of what you need to release, and then from there, implementing the plan, but one area at a time. This also will give you insight, data points to be able to reconfigure what's wrong. And if that way, well, when this happens, I get scared and I do XYZ. And now you can sit back from a non judgmental way, but look back and say, okay, what do I need to tweak in order to move past this hurdle and then make it be what I want? Sometimes we are so close to hitting the goal. We just needed like a little quarter of an inch pivot to get it to the goal. But often we stop because we tried a few times, it didn't work, and now we're scared to keep trying because we fall back into what's comfortable of saying that I can't ever change. This is always going to be this way. And it's comforting. It's comforting to live in the hell that you know. It's comforting to work with, engage with the trash that you know. Because you know what it is. You know how it's going to feel. A stat that I heard back when my undergrad years about couples and relationships is that over half of divorces, they end up going back together sexually. Part of it is because it's familiar. I've been with this person for 20 years. I know what it feels like, even though it sucks. It's horrible. It's mechanical. Or it might be wonderful. But they fall back into that because of comfort. Don't let that be you. Now, for the babe out there who's like, this is wonderful. This sounds super cute, but I want the grenade. I want the dynamite. I hear you. And again, I do very much believe there are times in which you do need to just blow it up, move on, because the life that you're trying to redesign still wouldn't be, even with the redesign, it's still not the place that you want to be in. So therefore, it's actually moot and actually very wasteful to try to focus energy on something that is absolutely not what you want. What I would say to you is that you need to focus on sequence. That is extremely important. So if you're someone that's like, I want to blow up my life, do not throw the grenade on every aspect of your life at once. You will probably find yourself in a psych ward very fast. Sequence matters. Focus on the area that if you were able to blow that area up, you would have the most expansion, full stop. So if it is cutting off a deadbeat baby daddy, boom, here's the grenade. Blow that up. And then once that debris is settled, you can really actually start asking yourself hard questions of, okay, what else in my life do I need to do the same to? Or was this situation really just beyond exacerbating everything else in my life? Because maybe everything else is just a redesign, it's a tweak. But that part zipped you out to where you're always on like battery saver mode. Therefore, everything else seems like I just want to blow up everybody. Just everybody's getting blown. When in actuality, it was that one thing. Or it could be two. It could be, I need to leave this dude. I need to leave this job. Done. But sequencing is going to matter because if not, you can cause yourself a lot of harm. And unfortunately, we don't live in a world where in which women are able to truly put themselves first unless they have an exorbitant amount of income, savings, access, or really phenomenal support that supports them. But for the average woman out there who is the financial backing for things and is the support for everyone else, you do not have the support mechanism for you to blow up your life because no one will be there, and people will then judge you for having done so, for actually saying that I left this because if not, I was going to do harm to self or others. People just expect women to deal with it and run with it, and it's fine. Get over it. That's just life. So I'm big about sequencing. If it is that you do need to, again, burn something out, like a relationship, especially of the intimate variety, have a strategic plan. If this relationship is something that is a bit more volatile, like it could go violent, you need to have your own savings built very nicely. You need to be thinking of like a very succinct strategic plan. And then you need to have a drop dead date that you execute. Something that in my MSW program I have heard often is one of the most volatile times for anyone leaving, say, a domestic situation is going to be when she's trying to exit. It is one of the most volatile times. I hope that you are listening and this is not your life. I really pray that's not the case. But if it is, you have to be very strategic, very mindful, very demure and sharing your information as well, because unfortunately, some people can be very much bought into you staying in a space of suffering because they're able to extract from you because you're more susceptible and vulnerable because of said stressor. But if that is not your space, it could be you need to leave this job because if not, like you see the writings on the wall. If you're a woman who's in Perry, you see the writing on the wall. Like as much as you have been the career bad bitch, that time and chapter has passed and it's time for you to evolve. You will need to ensure that your finances are in order for you to do so. It could be that you're wanting to start a business, but you got small kids. You can't be leaving your kids out there in the streets because they will come pick your kids up and there will be a lot of issues. So, making sure that you have the right support in order to do what it is that you need, but being very strategic, very sequenced, but l- focus on the one piece that if you could clear this, you could like really deep inhale, like you would use all of your lungs. Whole diaphragmatic breathing would kick in. And you would feel a sense of grounding. That, my friend, is where you need to focus your energy. All right, so for me to wrap this up, how much do you actually think you deserve? That's going to be my question for you to sit with as I wrap up. How much do you actually think and believe that you deserve? And I don't mean aspirationally. I don't mean, you're in a girls group chat stuff or what you post on Instagram, but for real, how much do you feel that you deserve? Because if your self concept doesn't match the expansiveness of that, you will plan to the size of that self concept. So if your self concept is only able to hold 50 ounces, you're not going to be able to build a life that's 100 ounces because the math ain't mathing at all. But to be honest with yourself about your self concept and how much you feel that you deserve can be super fruitful because it can help you to root out areas that are impacting your ability to live a life that you want and to feel deserving enough to put in the work. Like I always like to say, you are worth the fuss. Some people don't like to be fussed over. Oh, I'll take whatever you have. Whatever you got left, I'll take it. I'll eat whatever. It doesn't matter. No. How much do you feel you deserve? Because then that is going to set the tone and how much strategy you pull into looking at it. You need two things as you are looking and evaluating. One of them is your magic, which is the planning, the dreaming, the imaginatory. And number two is strategy. They have to go together. They are together. They're one. They're twins. You can't have one without the other. You can have all the dreams in the world with no strategy. It is going to stay in the darn Pinterest vision board. And then strategy without imagination sounds dry. It sounds unseasoned. Just no. It just sounds bland. And what'll end up happening is that you will create a plan that sounds good on paper. We've all met the dude or girl or pal that sounded good on paper, and then you met it and it was just like, I could have rather not have met that, experienced that. That would have been great. So you have to have both in order for you to really build a life that you want, one that you're not having to put a lot of do any escapism out of. And even with that, sitting with that, what does it life feel like where I don't have to escape from it? Can be very sweet. Owning the sovereignty in your plan is going to be so quintessential. Not having a plan and not owning your sovereignty, your magic, is going to make you cling to things that are outdated. You would not drink spoiled milk just because you paid a lot of money for it, because you know that it would hurt you. But that is essentially what you're doing by continuing to live a life and building the bridge, continuing to reinforce the bridge to a life that is not yours. And as I'm sitting here, what is coming up from the divine is that the longer that you sit in places that have expired, you also don't just impede growth for yourself, but also you're impeding growth for others, or for others to be able to grow. I want you to really own that what you hoard clings to you. Release with a free, loving hand and loving energy, and thank it. Be appreciative of all things, and all things count it all joy. Next week will be my last episode for this particular season. It could be also the last episode I do, period. But I want to bring all these things together so that you can ensure that the rest of 2026, like we are now, by the time you hear this, we will be into July. And we will be into month 7, where we have 5 more months into 2026. Put in the steps now in order for you to have the life you want.